welcome to Max Corner, and I've got a nice little gem on Steam I wanted to show you guys. I did play it when when it was in early access. I have not seen it since, but my understanding is it's come along really well. So I'm just going to play the first battle here, and what's really cool about this, though, is that the campaign's going to develop depending on if you win or lose, how well you win or lose, and most importantly, your units, as they suffer casualties, will maintain their casualties throughout the fight. So, yep, I've already done this. So I'm going to try not to really pause it much. So what we have here, this is General Buford trying to hold off the initial rebel advance into Gettysburg to buy the Union time to gain the high ground. And where you can see there we have skirmishers, some artillery, and some more skirmishers. Their purpose was not to actually win or hold here, just to delay. We'll zoom in. I got the sound effects are really good, but I've got the volume down low just in case. Well, you know, it's just kind of hard to talk over some of the volume. If you turn the volume up, it sounds pretty legit. It's really cool. So I'm not going to do anything fancy. Once they get a little bit closer, I'll probably pull my cannons back. I suppose I could pull my cavalry up. What's really cool is, so you almost kind of draw like a crayon, what your units do. The line of sight's real, the terrain is real. As you can see, the map is just gorgeous. It's a beautiful map. Here's the town of Gettysburg. And the map obviously is going to adjust depending on where you are on the battlefield. I've tried to come up here and, well, you know, why not? Why not try and do it again? So, not the smartest move in the planet. But we'll do a suicide charge into the artillery, see what happens. Ooh, maybe I should have pulled those guys back a little sooner. So if it's flashing, though, that does mean they're having a morale problem. Uh-oh. Yeah, uh-oh. Are you gonna charge? Are you gonna charge? Yeah, I want you to charge. Yeah, come on. Come on. So I don't know. Alright. I have fought this battle before. This isn't the first time. But he's apparently changed a lot of the mechanics. And I'm not necessarily familiar with them right now. Because I don't remember this. I don't remember getting overrun quite this fast before. It's alright, though. Oh, well, we're going to get enfilade fire with our cannons. That's going to be pretty sweet. Tear them up pretty good. Sweet. Oh, as you can see, they've a lot of boys in blue down. Some gray, too. As I said, I've been a history buff ever since I was a kid. I mean, all kinds of history, not just war history, but probably the most interesting ones of war history. So here we go. Here's what we were buying time for. Heavily outnumbered. This is actually a real fight. Quite heroic stand by Buford's cavalry. And they did buy enough time in the real life, too. And so we're going to try and get our infantry up to hold the line. And there's a movie called Gettysburg out that's been out since, I think, the early 90s. And if you have not seen that movie, it's an outstanding movie. I mean, it doesn't matter if you like war or not. Just the movie itself is a great movie. So even true to the real life, as you can see, I mean we're holding the line here, but it's at quite the cost. You can try and hold up here, but it's not really worth it because if you hold up here, you actually can have the option to try and maintain this as your main line. But the problem is just like in real life, you had, what's his name? Heath. This is Heath's division coming in from relative to us, the west. And then from the north, I think I believe it was Early's coming in from the north. And so if you try and hold this, you essentially yeah, you just get screwed because he's coming in, and it's almost the equivalent of a naval crossing the T, but just from an army perspective. Okay, I might need to get these guys running. Yeah, you're marching kind of slow. Oh, and you know what I didn't do because I've been talking and not pay attention? This is why you want to have them travel on the roads. So it's not only is this just an absolutely gorgeous map, but the buildings, you know, every building, there's line of sight. The line of sight's relative to what you see on the map. Roads, your people will obviously move faster. Let's get him back. Oh, Buford, what are you doing? Oh, well, okay, I guess he's trying to hold the line, but whew, he's about to get shot up there. Alright, I really need to get somebody up to that wall there. It's not the famous stone wall at Gettysburg, but it is a stone wall. And it's gonna help us if we can get up there in time. So what we don't want is Davis's brigade getting over there. So you can kind of see there, you know, the bigger the unit is relative to the number of people. So he's got a little over 2,000 people. Our skirmishers are getting chewed up pretty good. Archer's brigade is still doing all right. But so the Iron Brigade is a huge brigade, but it's also a veteran brigade, Irish brigade too. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's an Irish brigade, but they call it the Iron Brigade. And not only is it a pretty large brigade, but it's also full of veteran troops. Whereas Davis's brigade is really large, but it's a newly formed brigade, and so you know, its troops are not nearly as combat effective. All right, so you can see over here it gives notifications. Heath has his full division. Buford really shouldn't be up here. In fact, where Buford needs to be is where he was in real life, which is in the tower over here. We actually had a chance to go to Gettysburg in Pennsylvania sometime earlier in the year, and it was really cool. I wasn't able to go inside, but I got to see the building where General Buford, basically where his command was and where he oversaw the battlefield. And it was my first time being on a famous battlefield like that. Well, let me rephrase. I'd been on battlefields before, but most of the battlefields I'd been on were so old or so beat up that it was really hard to tell where stuff happened. But with Gettysburg, it's so well maintained, and when you get up like in this tower, the visibility is so good with these observation towers that it's really easy to figure out just kind of where things happen, how it happened, and all that stuff, which is really neat. Alright, so what I'm going to do is turn the brigade a little bit, and you know what? I don't want them getting into the... Oh, I should have taken that ridge a lot sooner than I did. We might be in some trouble. Now, to be fair, I'm not exactly playing this super serious. I'm more just kind of wanting to show it off right now. Depending on how this goes, I may start over and then do a real one. But I would like to continue and just fight the Battle of Gettysburg. It would be kind of cool. And I gotta remember how to run. I think you hit R to run. So part of my problem too is I needed to have gotten. Oh, in fact, let me learn my lesson though, and let's go across the roads this time. But it's really cool because I mean, literally, you kind of go like that, and you literally are just drawing. Like you hold the mouse button and just drawing, and that's where the units go. And what's really cool is when you get in the bigger battles later on, I mean, you can really do some pretty fancy maneuvers. It's really cool. These guys got ate up, did they? I wonder what they did to the I wonder if they had an effect on that artillery, though. And so as you can see up here, here's your cover. Basically, every time they reload's when they fire. The more or disorganized or basically wounded they are, it takes them longer to reload. Cover is essentially how much cover they have as a percentage of the unit, and how much of the unit's covered up. So if I had done a better job at getting these guys in the trees, like see these guys are all in the trees on the hill, so their cover's up to 79%. Alright, let's get look at that Davis is doing, and then morale is, you know, how the morale of the troops. And then there's the general in charge, or depending on, yeah, they're all generals. It might be colonels, but I think in the Civil War brigade commanders are generals. So obviously the more stars, the better off the leader is, that kind of stuff. And it looks kind of simple, but there's a lot of underlying mechanics to it, which is really awesome. All right, Cutter's Brigade. How's he doing? All right, let's. Yeah, I don't think these skirmishers are gonna like me as their general too much. I don't think. I'm amazed they're still charging and haven't told me to go to hell yet. Okay, I don't want to lose the Iron. So the Iron Brigade is a veteran brigade, as I said earlier. And what's important about them is they're there for a good portion of the fight. So you don't want to get them ate up here. You want to maintain their combat power by keeping them on the defensive. They're a great brigade to just basically hold the line. My artillery is about to get ate up. Okay, let's pull you guys back. Okay, all right, let's get you over here. Paul's Brigade. All right. Boom. So artillery is really effective at basically destroying morale and wrecking. I forget if conditions are actual casualties or what. And here's kind of how the battle's going in people's favor. Right now, it's still pretty much dead heat. This is the time limit for the battle. It's over in general when the time limit's up. But another cool thing is if it's really close, it's not like, oh, you're about to win and all of a sudden the time runs out. If it's really close, what it will do is it will extend the time. If the computer basically determines that there's a key, it hasn't really been decided yet. Like if you're fighting over a victory point or key piece of ground, it'll factor that in. So, just as in the real battle, this was a really key ridge. So they used McPherson's ridge to hold off initially. That was just Buford's cavalry, which was an untenable position, as I said. But its whole function was just to delay them getting across this river. You just hold the whole time for the Union infantry to catch up. And then the Union infantry dug in. No, they didn't really dig in, but not only was this a nice sized ridge line, but it had a lot of cover, natural cover too. And at this point in the Civil War, I mean, most of the Union Army was equipped with rifles. The Confederates too, and rifles were just, if you don't know, just in case you don't know, rifled weapons were a huge invention for the Civil War. And it was the first time the U.S. Army really transitioned from muskets to rifled weapons. But a lot of the commanders hadn't adapted their tactics yet to it. So, that's one of a few reasons why the Civil War is the bloodiest war in American history. Part of it's because both sides were American, obviously, but even factoring that in, just an absolute bloodbath on both sides. A tragic piece of our history. Up all right. Pettigrew's division is. Whew. All right. Usually I try and gang up on a division. This is not division. I'm sorry, brigade. I mean, this is just a huge brigade. But once again, a lot of Heath brigades are, even though they're very large, they lack combat experience. They're a fairly fresh division overall, if I recall correctly. And whereas the Union, not only did they have a decent number of troops, but this was a fairly veteran division that moved up too. It's led by General Reynolds, the division who was probably one of the best Union commanders, not the best, at the time of the war. And unfortunately, it was during this engagement he was killed. Basically, got picked off by a sniper. You can see, I mean, they're in the open. You can just, I don't know if you can see, but I'll try and keep it out. You can just see how quickly the body count goes down. I mean, they're in the middle of open terrain, engaging us on a wood line. And yeah, they're getting chewed up. In fact, if this were real, I think they might even be taking even more casualties than they are. But uh-oh. These guys are getting kind of... Alright, let's pull these back. They're getting... We're holding pretty good. I wish I had another infantry brigade to bring up here. I thought I put one up there, but I might have redirected them. And I didn't, well, you know what? I didn't line my brigades up very well. That's part of the problem. It doesn't... Well, now, there is sometimes a reason why you put a brigade behind it, just so if this one starts sucking, you can basically plug it in. And I didn't give myself any reserves. I should have held one brigade back as a reserve brigade, too. So as I said, I'm not fighting this fight very well. So ideally, you're going to want to have a solid line, with, utilizing the terrain as best you can. You're going to want to make sure they can't come in and flank it, and you're going to want to hold typically at least for a division at least one brigade in reserve. The whole point of that is, as a general, you don't necessarily know where the enemy's main effort's going to be, and where he might overwhelm you in a certain area. So you can always keep a reserve so that if the enemy starts to overwhelm you, that's when you pull in the reserve to counter where their main effort is. So what I should have done is, instead of putting all these guys down here, I should have kept Bucktail's brigade probably in the rear. So, I mean, the reason I don't want to go out and engage them, because all I'm trying to do right now is hold the line. Like, that's my mission, just hold the line. So there's no point in going out in the open and trying to engage them, just as long as we're holding our ground. That's all that really matters. Cutler's getting chewed up pretty good, though. It's good. I think it's going to be a good thing I sent this guys up there if they can get there in time. So if they get there in time. Now you can see, I forget exactly where they started at. Pettigrew's brigade is just getting chewed the hell up. I think he started off with over 2,800 or something. I mean, that's... Yeah, I've studied a lot of wars, and there's a lot of brave soldiers in every war, and probably the soldiers out of any war I have the most respect for, though, is the Civil War. Just, that I'm aware of, and it's not just because I'm American, it's just, you look at, I mean, they knowingly lined up, like, I mean, they had units that would suffer 100% casualty rates, like, and I don't mean like little squads, I mean entire companies we can mow down. I mean, well, World War I, too. That was pretty damn bloody, too. So World War I and the American Civil War, out of all the wars, those are just, it's just, the technology was so far ahead of the tactics of both those wars. It was ridiculous. So even though America did help in World War I mean, the real fighters in that were the Germans, the Russians, the French, and the British. We kind of came in towards the end when it was already kind of won, and we just kind of helped win it a little easier, I guess. I mean, and we did suffer casualties, but we didn't sacrifice nearly as much as the French, the British, and the Germans and Russians did. And a lot of that had to do with our Civil War. We kind of knew what we were getting into. Over there, that's why we were so cautious about going, or why we didn't want to go initially. Well, one of the reasons. It's like, most of the Americans, sorry, I'm just kind of talking this because right now we're just kind of waiting for this to end up. As you can see, we're holding just alright. I could have fought it a lot better, but W's a W, I guess. I was going to say, yeah, so a lot of the American generals, though, had studied, Napoleon was the big thing that they studied, going over the Napoleonic Wars. And Napoleon tactics for their day were amazing. I mean, they were great tactics that Napoleon's army pretty much perfected until they kind of got a little bit overconfident. Yes, invading Russia in the winter, never a good idea, ever. It took two empires fell trying. So you thought, anyways. But those Napoleonic tactics, once the rifle was brought to bear, were just atrocious. And then the Battle of Petersburg too. That was, I mean, they had done, you know, there was a trench warfare kind of came about towards the end of the Civil War, but the first true trench warfare by modern standards that I'm aware of, I might not know something that I wish I did, but that I'm aware of, was the Battle of Petersburg. That was kind of the rehearsal for World War I, essentially. Interesting battle, though. They dug it. You know, I'm not gonna spoil it for you. If you're really curious, I'm not saying it's. I don't know. It's just a battle not a lot of people are aware of, and it's a very interesting battle because it kind of came about at the end of the war. Trench warfare for the first time, which really enabled Lee to hold off a much larger Union force, really small Southern force, and then the Union attempted a pretty crazy strategy that almost worked, but it didn't. And yeah, and it got pretty bloody because it didn't. But I don't want to spoil it for anybody in case you want to look it up. Once again, Battle of Petersburg in Virginia during the American Civil War. All right, this should be ending pretty soon, according to this. And I don't foresee them. I didn't even try and keep that one. A lot of times when I play, I'll go up and I'll try and hold up there too. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of